Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Superwoman Wellness. We're determined to bring you back to your superpowered self. We're going to talk about injuries. And selfishly, as some of you might already know, I had ruptured my Achilles about 18 months or so ago. And honestly, I still kind of feel it. And it led me to thinking, why are we sometimes prone to injury? Could we be doing something to prevent injury? And then, as a mom of two teenagers and watching all of their friends get injured, get in sports, out of sports, ruin things that they wanted, I really wanted to bring somebody on who could help us with this entire conversation. So please meet Adam Cardona. He is the founder of Elite Healer Sports Massage with over 17 years of experience. He's a licensed massage therapist, a certified personal trainer. He excels in sports and medical massage, deep tissue therapy, Swedish massage, and cupping. Since founding Elite Healers in 2019, his mission has been to improve the quality of life for both athletes and non-athletes, I'm probably in that category, by reducing pain, increasing energy, and aiding in recovery. He's a YouTube host. He has a global audience on the benefits of massage therapy. And he is here to help us with all things injury and really giving us a new perspective. So, Adam, tell us a little bit about kind of what you've been doing. I think, athletes and their sort of propensity to injury has been highlighted recently. We've seen a lot of, big name athletes go in and off the field and in and out of their sports because of injuries. Kayla DiCello, I hope I'm saying her name correctly, was the most recent example when during the Olympic trials, she ruptured her Achilles, had to be taken off. And, it really crashes your dreams, right? I ruptured my Achilles, I think it was at the end of 22, if I remember correctly. But my son, I ruptured it playing squash with my son. But my son was very kind to point out, 9 months later, that I think there was a football athlete that had also ruptured an Achilles, but was back in action within 90 days. Whereas, like, it took me a solid year to recover. And to be honest, I still kind of am conscious of it, right? And it's ugly. It's like black and scarred and ugly and all this other stuff. So, why are our athletes getting injured? Are there things we could be doing, to protect an athlete or to be thinking all the way through? I feel like, sort of the Western mentality is like, we're just going to go do stuff and we're going to worry about prevention later. But talk to us a little bit about your philosophy, what you're seeing, and why this is an area of interest for you.
Well, with injury prevention with athletes, it really depends on the team that they have around them. One of the first times I actually started to notice that particular crucial factor was growing up in New York City, watching baseball. You'd see the Mets become very injury prone throughout like the late 1990s, early thousands. And then you had the Yankees who excelled. They were barely injured. They won championships. So part of it is who's around you. Do you just have athletic trainers, or do you have athletic trainers, sports massage therapists, physical therapists who are doing preventative care rather than reactionary care? And all those little factors, aside from diet and sleep, come into play. And that really dictates whether a person's going to get injured or not. Sure, there's a few predispositions, but
Right.
those little tweaks will lead to large peaks. And really, that's what can make the difference, is how well not only are you training, but your recovery and how disciplined it is. And that really is one of the primary fundamentals I think that any athlete can benefit, is having good people around you.
What area do you feel like gets missed out on the most? Like, I'm sure you've worked with all kinds of athletes at different levels, right? Whether it's the high school athlete or the college or the weekend warrior, where's the greatest opportunity that's getting missed amongst these different groups when it comes to prevention and really like prepping your body for extreme sports, right? And trying to make sure that you're doing everything before you actually go into one of these things.
Well, there's some things that are like a bit extreme that if you're like base jumping or something, there's some stuff that you just can't avoid if you have a bad base jump or something of that nature. So there are extreme events that will set you up for injury, and no prevention's really going to help it. But one of the things that I believe that they're really overlooking, and it's the same reason I've left the athletic training world to come into the sports massage world, is
Mhm.
because the fundamentals of recovery, either there's not enough emphasis on it, or they're looking at like old outdated stuff. like one of the things we do a little bit different here at Elite Healer Sports Massage is a lot of people give sports massage, but they don't tie it into the periodization, which is the athlete's training schedule and training season. And sports massage can actually produce better results if the timing is proper. Just like if you get better body results when you're, bodybuilding and you have a specific timing to when you eat, when you sleep, and when you actually train. And with sports massage and the recovery aspect, I believe that people just don't have it all together and they just need a little more guidance on that recovery side, because everything's about excelling and maximizing it. But if you're doing everything and your competition is doing everything, but your competition is sleeping better, they have a higher chance of excelling.
Interesting. So what is the right sequence or rhythm for sports massage? Is it post activity, pre-activity? Where like if I was trying to create a schedule for an athlete, what would that rhythm look like in general?
Well, it's a little bit a complex of an answer because you do need both post and pre, and then there's
Hmm.
in season, and then there's off season, there's preseason, and then there's like postseason. And this is
Mm,
why it's like more like periodization, because you could get really, really deep tissue during the off season, but during the in season, deep tissue is unadvisable. You want to focus on sports massage that would be more specific to your movements, because if you're a major league pitcher compared to a soccer athlete, that's two different ways of sports massage because you engage different muscles during the course of the process. So it's about having it customized for where you are in the season. Sometimes with postseason, like when they're in the playoffs, they want to cut back a little bit on like the more intense and just make it light, because if there's like a recovery feeling the next day, that's not advisable because then they're not going to move as efficiently. When during the season, it's okay, like if you're really messed up in your rotator cuff and you're a pitcher, to have that really intense sports massage to relieve it, because then maybe you could take the next day off, let a substitute come in, and the game's not as important. So it gets a little more regiment in as you
mm,
get closer to winning the championship. So that's
got
also
it.
it. But then you can do like in the actual event, pre-event massages like light and brisk, meant to stimulate your nervous system. It's quick. The whole body
Got
can be
it.
done in like 10 minutes, getting the blood flowing, nervous system ready. But then post should be done right away, and it should be specific to the muscles you use. So if you're like it's all upper body, you're not using your lower body, the sports massage shouldn't focus on that because it wants to get you recovered. So your recovery time is as quick as possible. So then you can be at your peak again.
Got it. Now, okay, let's flip to the weekend warrior, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
probably the category of a lot of our listeners, maybe. So I ruptured mine playing squash. I had gone to hot yoga in the morning. My son was sitting on the couch. That's one of our ways of bonding is to play racket sports. So I was like, hey, let's go play squash. Hadn't played in a while. Pretty stretchy, probably from the hot yoga, doing my thing. Boom, I'm on the floor, couldn't get back up. So, what did I do wrong? First of all. Second of all, for all the folks out there who are not super active during the week, but all of a sudden Friday, Saturday, Sunday is their time to get out there, whether it's pickleball or squash or tennis or whatever else. What do they need to be thinking about?
Well, that's one of the things I noticed with the weekend warriors. They'll do something like going from like the hot yoga to something like squash, and
Mhm.
it's different movements. So yoga, you're going to hold more poses, you're in more static positions. So while on the other hand, a sport like squash, pickleball, it's going to use more of the body's elasticity. So while some might consider it a warm up, a yoga for the sports like that, your elasticity is not really primed and ready to go. This is when a person wants to do something like dynamic warm ups, which some people call it dynamic stretching, which is taking the movement through a range of motion and bringing it back and kind of warming up that range of motion so it becomes supple and
Mhm.
ready to have the bounce that might require a quick turn when you're trying to turn directions to chase that ball. So that's what I see might have happened in that case. You might have needed a little more time to just specifically warm up like the ankles and the hips, because those move in a way where if they're both warmed up, you should be able to change directions kind of fluidly. But then again, weekend
Interesting.
warriors too, sometimes the body does too much and it needs like something right in the middle of the week just to keep the body primed, because otherwise it's too much time of inactivity.
Interesting. Now
Yeah.
you mentioned, well, before we go there, for the weekend warrior, massage after, massage before?
Oh, yeah. Well, you should be doing massage after. There's things you can do on your own, like with the warm-ups. Aside from like dynamic warm-ups, you can do things like a stimulating foam roll, which is doing it for a shorter period of time, foam rolling a muscle for like 25 seconds, 15 to 25 seconds, just enough to get the blood flow and wake up the nervous system, to wake up the muscle. And then you can do the like sports massage afterwards. But because you're
Mm.
also not you're a weekend warrior, you don't necessarily need a sports massage. Like if your whole body aches, you can do a deep tissue and just ask them to emphasize on the stuff you use in your sport, because you won't be, if you're just doing the weekends and it's like Sunday
You're
night,
not having to go
you're not
back
going to use your
in.
body
Yeah.
for a few days, so you have time
Yeah.
to recover.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. All
Yeah.
right. You've mentioned this a couple of times, and I feel like you really want to bring this point home. Recovery is not just about massage and all this other stuff. It's also about kind of the fundamentals of sleep and diet and nutrition. What are
hmm
you seeing there? What are your recommendations? Where are people missing out? What do athletes versus non-athletes need nutritionally that they might not realize?
Well, first off, I think that we really have to stop the processed food in our diets, because
Yeah.
with all the complex amount of chemicals that could be in like a simple fast food chicken patty, we're really doing detriment to our own health, because while we do have the chicken patty, there's all these chemicals that our body has to process, go through the toxins. If the toxins don't go through our body right, they could be in there forever, affecting our hormones and everything else. So that's like one of the biggest things I think that people have, that they don't even realize. That's something that they should really be doing to take care of themselves, is eating the proper stuff closer to like what you'd be able to get from a farm, so that way you know it's fresh. Because even sometimes like these leafy greens, they'll be sprayed with all these pesticides,
Hmm.
and if you don't wash it right, that's going to affect your body, making you unhealthy, creating rigidity in your body. You get this inflammation, so you're not as supple anymore. You know, the inflammation can cause sicknesses, but you could also have injury from the inflammation because your body's not working at its optimal level. Then there's things like sleep and properly recovering the muscles. Properly recovering the muscles, a lot of people think about stretching, but the muscles recover through stretching, but also like compressive friction. And so if you're doing all this stretching, you're going to elongate the muscle, but without the compressive friction, your body builds up knots. And as the knots build up, it's like putting knots in a rubber band. The more knots in the rubber band, the less of a stretch you're going to get. So over time, even if all that stretching, you'll be still be a little stiff. And this is why some people who stretch a lot still find like certain areas don't function as they should, because they should be getting what we call at Elite Healers sports massage, maintenance massage, which is just getting ahead of those aches and pains, so you can play your sport, but you could also do something as simple as pick up your kid and not get back pain or get a sore
Yeah.
shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah. And sleep is an important part of this process of relaxing the muscle.
Sleep is where the body makes all the repairs. One of the biggest things I advise to people when they get a massage, it doesn't matter. It could be medical massage, sports massage. It could be Swedish, because Swedish improves circulation. The massage is not over until you sleep a full night of sleep, because then the body adapts. It makes repairs to the muscle tissue. Hormones begin to balance. And this is also
Mm,
why that usually when people sleep a good night of sleep after taking care of specific tension from massage, I normally hear back that this is the best night of sleep they get, is the night post
yeah.
massage.
Yeah. I hear that all the time too. So getting rid of processed food is a important component even for keeping an athlete at their peak, and even the rest of us. We talk about processed food and its impact on inflammation all the time. Are there key nutrients? What about like the protein craze? What about alcohol and caffeine? Where do they fit into this equation? Are there B vitamins, like, what are you seeing kind of in the nutritional landscape once we clean up, which definitely is the fundamental? What do you see after that?
Well, one of the biggest things that a lot of people have there's two things that I think people are very deficient in. First one is magnesium, which people
Mm,
know it to help the body sleep, but it also helps with hormone and just muscle regulation. And I notice when people start taking Epsom salt baths, or they start supplementing magnesium, their muscles aren't as rigid. They can recover a lot better. They get enhanced sleep. And now the other thing that people really lack, and that I notice it results in like bone fractures, achy joints, even brittle fingernails, is a lack of collagen in the diet. You know,
Yeah.
the animal based collagen is what the body can take in the easiest from like bone broth soup and things like that. But then you can still get some from collagen supplements, which the body doesn't absorb as much. And again, it's kind of processed. But then berries and nuts can also, but again, the absorption rate's a little bit lower. So the
Lower.
more,
Yeah.
like, you just have to eat a higher volume, which for some people trying to maintain their weight, that's counterproductive in one sense, but then productive in the other sense. So those are some of the biggest things I noticed that people are deficient in, that once they get it right, not only do their chances of injury go down, but they get enhanced results from sports massage, medical massage, Swedish massage.
So magnesium, collagen, anything else? If you could rate your top three,
Well, protein, lack of
protein.
protein, you
Yeah.
know, they like one of the biggest things I always tell people to watch out for is like the fake meats, because
Yeah.
they are so heavily processed, and then they
I
have seed
know.
oils, which used to be engine lubricant, and all that stuff just doesn't act right with the body. So it's like either eat the plant that hasn't been processed or have the meat, because that's those plant-based foods are, like, in my opinion, worse than a bag of Doritos or M&Ms or Skittles.
I know. I don't know why there's such a push for that. They are just as bad. I agree 100%. And then what about like the role of fats? Where is that for the athlete? How much do they need in terms of, like healthy fats and those type of things?
Well, it really depends on the athlete's diet. One of the things that I've noticed, and also because I've also personally taken up this diet, is an animal-based diet.
Hmm.
And when I don't have carbohydrates, and I've noticed this with myself and others, you don't get the midday energy crashes. When you're
Right.
closer to like a ketogenic lifestyle, your energy gets more even into higher fat content. So sometimes, and the body processes it really well. If you're running a marathon, the energy gels are processed carbohydrates,
Right.
but then when you have the fats, they burn longer. So I noticed if you can minimize the carbohydrates and up the fat intake, you're going to have a better fuel source, because the ketones will just burn longer, and that way you'll have an even energy source, and that way you can excel, you can advance and perform at your best.
So all of those, when I used to do like, the longer races, running, I don't run anymore, but when I used to run, all the little like energy packs, loading up on carbs before the race, all unnecessary. Is all of that a thing or not really?
I mean, you can do that, but over time, what I've learned is that switching the energy source, when you're carbohydrate dependent, you're going to need those gels, you're going to need those packs. And I would suggest that if you're trying to
I
switch
see.
over, you do it during the off season, because you're going to have periods where your body's adjusting and it won't feel right. So
Yeah.
you should do it like, let's say if you're switching your energy source and you're a runner, you want to do it during January and February, where you don't even feel like going running outside when it's freezing
Right.
cold. You know, so there
Interesting.
are periods to do it, but when you need it, you need it. But long term, I've noticed people that minimize like carbohydrates and processed things also get injured a lot less. But I think it's unfortunate because of all the chemicals they put in the diet.
Yeah. Well, one of the things too, I work a lot in the hormone space, and one of the things that we've seen as a pattern, I'm curious about Kayla. I don't know if this applies to her or not, but we are very sensitive as women when it comes to ligaments and muscles and injury risk, depending on where our hormones are. And I don't know if you've seen that or not, but it seems what I've seen in practice is that when progesterone drops, so as you're approaching your cycle, that seems to be the highest risk for you to get injured as a female athlete. And that, I don't know if that's something that you guys have observed or in working with female athletes or much about, but that's definitely more, of a pattern that I've witnessed, that everything from the shoulder injuries to the ACLs to the Achilles, a lot of it happening in conditions of hormone depletion.
Yeah, well, I think that the hormone depletion is really important in both females and males, because hormones just drive the entire body. And
Yeah.
even hormones make up the brain chemistry. So when your hormones are off, sure, your body might suffer, but after a while, you're going to get depression and all these other things. So it's really, really important. I find that women, especially, have nutrient dense foods because if you're trying to watch like the poundage and try not to go up in weight, then every calorie should be filled with nutrients. So that way you don't need as many calories to be satiated so your body can get into it. Like one of the things I really love, and I know some Western doctors will be upset with me, is that I love cholesterol because
Hmm.
cholesterol builds
Totally.
hormones. Your brain is a fatty mass of cholesterol. So I believe that sometimes with things like medicines like statins that, lower the cholesterol, you're opening up an injury risk. Like I wrote a really big blog on postmenopause and frozen shoulder and how they relate to
Yeah.
women. And it's all
Yep.
into hormonal changes that increase it and make postmenopause women the highest population to suffer from frozen shoulder. So it's really important that, especially at various stages in life, to properly regulate your hormones and to work with an expert that can help guide you.
Yeah. What about for men too? Because, so many men are on statins and high blood pressure medications and stuff like that, and then their testosterone drops and then they're trying to work out because they're gaining weight. Are they getting injured more frequently
Yeah.
as well?
Well, speaking as a guy, like one of the
Yeah.
things that I really look at is because, especially for myself, as I'm in my just got to my 40s, is really looking at how to maintain the testosterone through natural means. I'll watch my diet, I'll minimize the carbohydrates, get a good
Yeah.
night of sleep, I'll supplement with like Tongkat Ali,
Yeah.
ashwagandha root, just all to kind of stimulate it, bringing in a good amount of strength training during the week. I try at least 3 times minimum. I prefer five, but 3 times minimum for strength training. And then I've been learning through reading books by people like Dr. Sean Baker about how
Hmm.
when people get on statins and they try to lower their cholesterol, you're getting like dementia,
Yep.
Alzheimer's, all these other pathologies because we're lowering the necessary cholesterol that our body needs. So
Right.
you really have to use discernment as you get older, and you need to, what I always say is vet your doc. Just because
Yeah.
a person, a massage therapist, a doctor, a lawyer, they can all get their license, but doesn't mean they graduate at the top of their class or they know what they're doing. So they still need a little bit of vetting, because if they make a mistake and they avoid a lawsuit, they are scot free. But if they made a mistake on you, you're gonna suffer.
Right. And sometimes too, it's just like who's a creative thinker or a more out of the box thinker versus who's just like following a checklist. So I think that's a big differentiator too when it comes to practitioners is that you want somebody who's going to like you kept saying it, customize, individualize, not just be like, well, this is how we do things on everyone. Therefore, this is what's going to work on you. Testosterone replacement in men and women, injury preventer, injury promoter? What do you see? Better performance? What do we see?
Well, anytime that you replace something, you're telling your body you don't have to make it anymore. So
Mhm.
I think that these replacement therapies, while they might get you results in the short term, you're doing a disservice to yourself for a long term, because basically now you're a customer for life that needs that to produce the testosterone, the progesterone, the estrogen, whatever you're supplementing there. So
Yeah.
it's a really dangerous road. There are certain exemptions where you should do that,
Right.
in specific emergencies, but you shouldn't let your body turn off certain functions because you're replacing it and the body says, oh, look, we have all this hormone. We have too much of it. Let's stop
Yeah.
making it.
Yeah. I love that. All right, let's talk about one more thing and we'll circle back to
Sure.
Kayla. Like just the mental conditioning. Is there a mental conditioning piece for injury prevention? Is there
Well,
such a thing or what do you think?
I think it's a mindset, to be honest with you. It's because you can like trick yourself every so often, but if you start to build a mindset, and I've noticed some athletes, they can be open to this. So there could be like SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, timely, where you can quantify it like that. And you can take small steps. Some people like visualization, being able, it's one of my favorite things, visualizing the end result. not knowing how you're going to get there, maybe with a light plan, but to visualize it so that way you can manifest and make it a reality. And then you can also do stuff like positive self-talk. A lot of people have bad internal scripts. They'll be like,
Hmm.
oh man, this is going to happen to me again. And of course it's going to happen to you. You're having a bad mental script. So one of the things that I like to say to myself and that I coach people on is like, look at the end result. Visualize that you're going to be successful, that you're going to attain this goal. Trick yourself into believing it until you believe it. If you need to borrow my faith or faith of someone that's in your ear, borrow that faith until that faith becomes your own.
I love that. That's a really good take home point. All right, what's next for Kayla? We started talking about her. What's her future look like? What does recovery from that injury look like?
Well, in all honesty, like I'm just even shocked to hear about the 90-day recovery because
Of
I
that
don't know.
athlete. I'm forgetting
Yeah,
it. What's his name? He's well known. I'm blanking on who it is. But
I'm
yeah,
not
apparently he
sure,
was
but
back
he's
in the field very quickly.
probably doing like SARMs or something of that nature, supplementing it with something that the athlete really shouldn't, because the average recovery is about 9 months on the quick end and about 12 months on the longer end for someone who wants to compete. Sure, you could be walking and living a normal life after about 6 months, but we're talking
Hmm.
competition here. So to
Right.
be able to do tumbles and flips and land from the pommel horse after you finish on the pommel horse, these are things that you need to have the resiliency. So you're going to have, like, in your beginning, I don't know when she had hurt herself, but those first 2 weeks, you're going to kind of be bedridden. It's going to be like you're going to have your leg up in the
Yeah.
air. You can't even get massage at that point. You can't be weight bearing on it. So you got to be in crutches. Then once you're about like 2 weeks past, you can begin the early stages of rehabilitation and recovery. You can begin to just put a little bit of weight on that foot, progressively loading it as advised by a physical therapist or whoever your main physician in that's guiding you in that journey. And at that time, you can do like something like hydrotherapy, some pull exercises, and they're going to start you very small amounts of time. And at this point, they'll probably tell you to get massage therapy, but more like Swedish massage therapy to just kind of get things flowing a little bit until later in that, depending on how you recover, could be 4 weeks, could be a little bit longer, but then you can move on. And then, from about 3 to 6 months, you're really going through like a strengthening phase, progressively adding movement patterns, introducing more complex like weight bearing exercises. And then this is when you could get more specific into the medical massage therapy. And if you're a
Yeah.
pro athlete, if you're a regular person, once a week medical massage therapy to recover is great during the recovery period. But if you're a pro athlete, you might want to consider like 2, 3, 4, or even after every physical therapy visit, getting a massage session. But that's another thing. If you get physical therapy massage on the same day, always get the massage after because it's going to relax the muscles and you won't operate as efficiently in physical therapy. So always do the physical therapy first. And then we do this recovery for 3 to 6 months. Then you can look at getting back into sport specific training. So about 6 months after the injury, she can begin light gymnastics to kind of get back onto the horse or pommel horse, so to
Yeah.
speak. You
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
and over that time, until she gets about 9 months or 12 months, depending on what her team would say, she's not really going to be able to even think about competing. So when you have something as serious as an ankle rupture, it's a journey to recovery. It's not like a
I
sprain that's
know.
over a few weeks.
It's been a journey for me for sure. I was on the knee scooter, crutches, knee scooter, then trying to learn how to walk again, honestly.
Yeah.
And then it was back into my activities. And going downstairs is still an issue for me. I'm still a little wobbly there, but I'm kind of back to doing everything. But it was long. But of course, I didn't put the time into it. Maybe an athlete would put into it, right? I did PT and I did some things for a few months, but it's not a joke. So I think everything from diet, sleep, being smart about our sports, if we're weekend warriors, stretching, foam rolling, I think those are all great tips. And the processed foods continue to be, public enemy number one, I think. They
Oh
just
yeah.
keep getting implicated in everything. Well, Adam, thank you so much for taking time out today to talk to us about injury prevention, what you're seeing, kind of on the athletic side, how it all comes together. You really do need a holistic approach to treating injuries and managing injuries. If anyone listening or watching today wants to reach back out to you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Well, you can find me if you just want to watch content of what I advise on YouTube and Rumble, Elite Healer Sports Massage, but you can also check out the Elite Healer Sports Massage website, www.elitehealersportsmassage.com, and you can email me, Adam at elitehealersportsmassage.com, if you want to get in touch with me directly.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking time out. And for everybody else watching and listening to this episode of Superwoman Wellness, don't forget to rate and review it and share it with your friends. I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Taz.
Thank you.